What makes you, you? Apple TV's Severance asks that question, specifically about two distinct minds inhabiting the same body. Now imagine the overtime protocol contingency wasn't 39 minutes, but the entire show, except the innie keeps their outies general knowledge. That's the premise of the anime Kowloon Generic Romance, which has been sating my Severance hunger ever since Milchick and that marching band looked like they were going to throw down. Like Severance, it's hard to tell someone the gist of Kowloon without spoiling parts of the first episode. And if you haven't seen Severance, then I'll probably spoil bits of that series too. So, you've been warned. Kowloon Generic Romance opens on Reiko Kujirai starting her day as a real estate agent in Kowloon Walled City, Hong Kong. This dingy, densely populated area is home to a tight-knit community, one that she doesn't feel particularly attached to. Her crush and fellow realtor, Hajime Kudo, is the opposite. Everything in Kowloon is perfect as it is, down to the same lunch from the same place every day. However, today, Kudo bowls Kujirai over, making her late. So to make up for it, he takes her out on what seems like a date, which gets especially awkward when a bartender insists that Kudo and Kujirai are not only together, but that he's served them before. And Kudo's behavior has been strangely hot and cold with her lately, so when Kujirai notices a picture sticking out of his desk, she decides to snoop and learn a little more about this girlfriend. Sorry, fiancé, who looks exactly like her. Who is this woman, this Kujirai B? Does Kujirai A have amnesia? Does Kudo know? Are any of her acquaintances hers, or do they all belong to Kujirai B and are just playing along? These are just some of the questions I had after watching episode 1. One of the first questions I had, and maybe you noticed it too, why does Kowloon Generic Romance look like it's from the 90's? Seriously, it looks like Sailor Moon or Trigun but in 1080p. I have a theory on this, and it has to do with one of the show's central themes, nostalgia. In Severance, it's hard to pin down when the story takes place. Lumen uses old-school computers, has mid-century furniture, and everyone's driving an 80's and 90's economy shitbox, while also using a cell phone. Kowloon is similar. The city is rusted and dirty, and Kujirai's office has flat-screen monitors and the internet, while still requiring a punch card to clock in. And it all gets weirder if you know that Kowloon was a real place. I mean, I didn't know that it was until I started watching this anime, but in my defense, world history is right down there with music and drama when it comes to the budget priorities of American education. And even the author of the Kowloon manga, Jun Miyazuki, claims she first learned about it playing a 90's video game. So can I take this off now? Why does this matter? Well, a little knowledge adds to the depth of the story. I mean, the Egan mythos and philosophy loses some credibility if you know that the four tempers, woe, frolic, dread, and malice, are just bastardizations of Hippocrates and his four humors from 2,200 years prior. Kier is basically 19th century Rickon. As for real-life Kowloon, the city traded hands several times throughout history, specifically Chinese, British, and Japanese ones, resulting in this pseudo-city-state within Hong Kong. Kowloon was eventually demolished in 1994, and if you listen very carefully in the first episode, you'll hear someone call it Second Kowloon. People were so nostalgic for Kowloon they rebuilt it in this timeline.
Everybody's in love with this city, and a sense of nostalgia is a big part of that. Which is why our Kowloon never changes.
So the art style and the setting are purposely calling back to that other time, but so is the opening sequence. Just the name is enough to convince me. Wednesday Campanella's Summertime Ghost, with lyrics that romanticize a city in summer, distant memories, and the past and future colliding. That song's music is stylized too, which I know I can't play here because of licensing, but it's reminiscent of 80s city pop like Omega Tribe, Anri, and the GOAT, Miki Matsubara. But what if it's not an artistic choice of style and presentation, but nostalgia is what's keeping the characters locked in the past, to the point where they're not only missing the present, but they're willfully ignoring it? Kudo's line about the entire city having nostalgia is indicative of this point, and while we'll get back to him in a minute, Kujirai-A's lack of nostalgia is more interesting. Plus, ladies first. She does have this to say about the feeling.
I think I feel it with you sometimes, if that makes sense.
So the present Kujirai, who the story calls Kujirai-A, discovering Kudo's past with Kujirai-B, is an understandable nostalgia-based hang-up. She lives in the same apartment as Kujirai-B, she wears the same clothes, does the same job, and she's falling in love with the same man. How does A differentiate herself from B? Is she actually different than B, like Mark S and Mark Scout? Or is this all some kind of biologically predetermined course of action, on repeat in some kind of loop? There's real-world evidence in support of that last one. There's an episode of NPR's Radiolab about these kinds of repeating cycles. Specifically for Kowloon, the section around a woman suffering from transient global amnesia, meaning she couldn't create new memories. The woman's daughter, Christine, took a video of what that looks like.
Okay, so remember, it's August. I'm trying to remember the last date, the last thing I remember. I'm trying to relate it to work.
Do you remember what day of the week it is?
No, I don't have any idea what day it is.
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. I'm trying to remember.
You remember what day of the week it is?
No, I don't have a clue. August.
It's Tuesday.
And this goes on for 7 minutes. The anime is clearly focused on the interplay of identity, memory, and physiology. In fact, it was Kujirai realizing she didn't have any memories of a past that made me think of Helly R waking up on that desk. Speaking of, the Severed are two people with drastically different experiences inhabiting the same body. So, what about nature versus nurture? Meaning, does biology drive behavior, our environment, or both? This idea is old, like at least as old as ancient Rome old. It is the entire plot of Terrence's play, The Brothers. The short version is that two brothers are separated and raised with wildly different parenting philosophies, and in the end, neither method results in common or ideal behavior in either young man. Kujirai A and B, from what we've seen, are in a similar boat as those brothers and the Severed. This manifests through behavior. Kujirai B had to wear glasses, chose to wear bright red lipstick, whereas A has perfect vision and prefers a more natural look. In the flashbacks, B is a lot more crass and straightforward than A. Holy crap, is Kujirai sexy, Dylan?
Are you serious?
Really? Your robust stature and fiery heart were always sexy.
That was poetic as shit, man.
And while Kujirai A is doing the psychological thriller cut of Eat, Pray, Love, we learn from her friend Yaomei that plastic surgery is not only a thing in Kowloon, but it's so widely available that she's completely changed her appearance. Yaomei has a fixation on abandoning any nostalgia, and though she remembers her past, it's almost like she wishes she didn't. And Yaomei's desperate housewifing herself begs the question. If Kowloon can completely change someone's appearance, and people can suddenly have no memories of their own, how do you trust anyone is who they say they are? How do we know the people of Kowloon aren't the equivalent of Harmony Cobell, or a less handsome Seth Milkshake? Which leads back to Kudo. What is this guy's deal? Does he know Kujirai A isn't B? If so, that's really cold, because this is the guy that said to Kujirai B,
But if someday it really does disappear, wouldn't losing that love be too painful?
and if Kudo does know, is it his nostalgia that makes him attracted to Kujirai A? Only for him to realize she isn't Kujirai B and be repulsed by her. Maybe it's why he's always pushing for her to enjoy Kowloon and what it has to offer, because it's the same Kowloon that Kujirai B loved. Some of these questions I've posed have already been answered, and that is a good thing, in my opinion. The show delivers on its mysteries quickly and successfully gives us new ones while doing it. And that's an improvement on Severance, where my chief complaint is there's just too much weirdness around the central plot. While conspiracies are fun, I can't keep track of them all. Like the goat being used as practice for transferring an Egan's brain a la Johnny Silverhand, or Mark being a secret bastard Egan. I'm honestly concerned Severance might go all lost on us by the final season. Sorry, this is an anime channel. I'm concerned Severance is going to go all Evangelion or Attack on Titan on us by the final season. As a final note, nothing should be overlooked when watching Kowloon Generic Romance. Dialogue, scenes, and cinematography, And symbolism is rampant too, with a fun, repeated one involving goldfish, which is usually a symbol of wealth and good fortune in Chinese culture, but it can also represent fertility, or a lover that's passed away. So, this probably isn't a good omen on where the plot's going. I mean, that last episode of Severance wasn't exactly a happy ending either, except for Emil. Somebody get that little guy a carrot. In case you missed Severance, your Audi can watch it on Apple TV+. And since it'll be a while before we return to Lumen for Season 3, check out Kowloon Generic Romance on Crunchyroll while you wait. Links in the description below. If you're new to anime and want to branch out based on familiar Western media, I would start here. And the almighty algorithm seems to think you'd like this video in particular. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next sermon.